It's that thing of being able to see a destiny, a creative vision, an ethos, a point of view by Black talent that people hadn't seen before, or things they'd heard about.
I got a sense of who you were as a young lover of movies and why you wanted to tell this story specifically. And I'm wondering if you felt that it was really important to kind of remind people there has been ownership of this culture being up on the screen by Black filmmakers. And I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it did feel to me like you had something really important you wanted to say in this movie.
What I wanted to do with this is just to say that there is so often in the Black experience offering up a point of view that is innovative and revolutionary that tends to get ignored and subsumed. And so much of that happened up until this point. And the fun of making this is sitting with Steven Soderbergh, who first put his vote of confidence in this 4 years ago. And finding clips and trying to find clips that they're going to be something you've seen before, but there's stuff that people hadn't seen. Spencer Williams is known as an actor who did very stereotypical roles, but he's an incredibly talented director who I think had that gift of great filmmakers and that he thought through the lens. I mean, for me, that puts him on the same level as Wong Kar-wai or George Miller or Jane Campion, people whose instinct is to go through the lens and change the way we look at movies. And there's that shot you saw of that Black processional, that black and white shot, as they're walking towards the camera. That's breathtaking to me. The first time we projected that, there was a gasp from the audience because it's that thing of being able to see a destiny, a creative vision, an ethos, a point of view by Black talent that people hadn't seen before, or things they'd heard about. I also wanted to make this about more than Blaxploitation. Those movies that fall into that genre are not regarded in terms of performance. And it's a way to dismiss it, in fact. When I just was on my friend Mark Maron's show, like, wasn't just on, but last fall.
The comedian?
Yeah, on his podcast. And he was saying, you know, I avoided a lot of these movies because I thought they were just camp and really silly and over the top. And he actually watched this twice. Like, he watched it 2 times in a row. Then went on and started watching these movies. He watched Coffee. He said, that's just as gritty and powerful as Mean Streets. I said, I think first of all, it's got a great performance by a woman, which you don't see in almost any of those other mainstream movies. And not only that, but you see Ron O'Neal in Superfly. And that's an astonishing performance. Jim Signorelli, who was a DP for Superfly, he said, we didn't have any permits. You watch Ron O'Neal, he runs, he jumps over that fence, he leaps onto the fire escape, and if you're looking, you can see his hands shaking from the adrenaline as he's pulling himself up. And they said they realized he was slowing down because he was faster than the guy he was chasing, wearing heels in a suede leisure suit. He said, if we were a real film crew, we would have applauded, but they were basically stealing all the shots. One of the things that's important for filmmakers of color to know is that you're part of a legacy, that this has been happening since the beginning of film, where if you're Oscar Michaud or Spencer Williams, you had to be your own writer, your own director, your own producer, your own promoter. You had to go book your movie theaters. And sometimes you had to project it yourself because sometimes projectionists didn't know what they were doing, or it's a Black movie, so they didn't care what shape they gave it back to you in, and you didn't have 300 prints to interchange. You also have the example of somebody like Robert Townsend or Melvin Van Peebles. These Black filmmakers changed the dialogue and the way indie film is dealt with. Robert Townsend in 1987, 86 when he shot the movie, made this movie Hollywood Shuffle he made on credit cards. This is about institutional wealth. If you're a Black person, the odds are pretty good you don't know a whole lot of rich people or middle class people who can afford to give you money that they may not see. When he sold the movie to Sam Goldwyn, he said, can you give me the check today?
Just the credit card.
I was like, why? Well, because I don't want to, I'm close to penalty on these cards. I should be paying the minimum, and this is bad. He goes, he said, that's really true? You actually, yeah, of course I really did that. And what Melvin Van Peebles did before, the idea saying Sweetback was rated an X by an all-white jury. He never gave it to the MPAA. He couldn't afford to do that, but he understood that the X rating hadn't been copyrighted. Those are all copyrighted logos. but they hadn't copyrighted the X. So I can just steal the X. Who's going to stop me? And he did that, and in his way created a whole industry because everybody went, oh, so we can call our movie double X or triple X or quadruple X. And who's going to stop us? Like I said, there's no double PG-13. So these are all the ways in which black film and the entrepreneurs and that spirit of wanting to get your movie out there changed the culture.